Hello, I'm delighted that we have with us this afternoon Paul Burns, who is National Technical Director at Technology Services Group. And Paul's going to explain a little bit more about Windows Server 2003 end of support. Paul, what are the risks involved and the potential for disaster if businesses fail to take action around Windows Server 2003 end of support?
Well, it's an interesting one. Server 2003 has been around for a long time and is a very, very stable platform, as we all know. A lot of the reason for the stability is the fact that it's been patched continually by Microsoft over the last 10 years plus. After the end date next year, those patches will cease, and a lot of those patches are around security. So the biggest risk and threat we're going to see is around vulnerabilities or these kind of holes within the actual product itself, which will then be exploited. And the fact that servers aren't necessarily browsing the internet and various other things doesn't mean that they're not vulnerable. They are still vulnerable to attack. So I think what we're saying is that people that are going to continue to run these servers after that point are going to have to make very, very sure that those servers are not exposed in any way, shape or form to the rest of the network, because the threat could be a PC getting infected and then actually sniffing the network to look for 2003 servers and holes and vulnerabilities, or vice versa, a 2003 server getting infected and then looking across the network to infect other devices. So the threat is definitely there and it's very real. And if you look across all the security vendors that are writing about 2003, the risk is definitely genuine.
What are the options that businesses should be looking at when they're looking to replace Windows Server 2003?
Okay, well I think the good news is that we're now in a position where it's not just a simple case of one box out, one box in. You know, we've got the ability to consolidate those onto sort of what we would traditionally refer to as an on-premise technology refresh. We have the ability to use hybrid, which is what a lot of businesses are now starting to move to, where we're getting the best of both worlds. So we're using on-premise servers and applications where it's right to do so, but we're also taking advantage of some of the more modern technology platforms like Office 365 to deliver services like SharePoint and Lync, which is a fantastic product and everybody needs to see it. And then obviously other things in the cloud like Microsoft Exchange, so that you're reducing your kind of CapEx exposure, but obviously it becomes an operational cost for the business ongoing. So it's a good fit for certain types of businesses. And then of course the final one is the full cloud option, where some businesses have decided that they no longer want to own any hardware or software licenses. So we're now taking them on that journey to be a full cloud company, so they don't have any servers within their environment, any storage. It's all literally held out on the cloud and backed up within that environment. So we have three choices now when we talk about refresh.
What do businesses need to look out for if they're thinking about moving to the cloud?
Well, I think there are some obvious ones that a lot of people will understand, like connectivity. You know, if you're moving into the cloud, connectivity has got to be the first thing that you address and look at. It may be that your connectivity is already adequate to take you on either a partial cloud deployment, i.e. the hybrid cloud that we mentioned, or to take you that full cloud journey. But that is probably one of the very early things to look at. We then have to consider applications and compatibility. So will your CRM application still work with Exchange in the cloud? The likelihood is that we can find a way of making it work, and there are lots of workarounds to help us with that. But TSG have developed and have been running for the last sort of 3 years now something called a cloud readiness assessment. The idea behind the cloud readiness assessment is to identify, are there any applications that aren't compatible? Are there other services that are running within the organization, like faxing services, that aren't really compatible with a cloud migration? And then to work out how do we mitigate and work around those particular problems that we found, so that we can then take that client on a proper transition into the cloud.
This whole concept of the modern technology platform, what are the benefits that it can bring to businesses?
Well, the modern technology platform, for me, really involves that. The first step certainly involves that hybrid approach, where we're starting to unlock products that a lot of clients today don't use. I think the obvious ones for us would be SharePoint. SharePoint is getting a lot more airtime now and is getting adopted in more and more businesses. And then we look at newer platforms, which the likes of Lync is probably the main one. Lync is an absolutely incredible transformational tool which will cut down email within the business. It'll allow you to work collaboratively on documents, and also to do kind of video conferencing and multi-party conferencing in a very, very easy way. A fantastic tool, and obviously it has instant message and presence and various other elements to it as well. So everybody that we demo Link to today, is bought into it straight away. And the good thing with products like 365 is it gives an easy way of adopting those types of products, and those for me are part of this modern business transformation. Products like Link, and then we look at the sort of smaller tools that Microsoft are starting to release and have released better versions of, like OneDrive. So OneDrive gives us this ability to take our documents wherever we are and access them on any device, and it's a really good business tool. And of course Power BI, which is an emerging tool and has started to be used by a number of our clients for integration of things like the CRM platforms into powerful Excel spreadsheets.
Just one final question. For those businesses that have come to rely on the robustness and the resilience of Windows Server 2003, what reassurance can you offer that where they're going will offer an equal level of robustness and resilience?
I think that's a really good question, and Server 2003 has been a very, very stable platform, as most people will know who've been running it. I remember back the earlier days of Windows NT 3.5.1 and NT 4, which were, let's put it, less reliable, and as 2000 came out it was a bit more reliable, but 2003 was kind of the changing product within Microsoft's server platform. That product really started to address a lot of the problems about having to regularly reboot servers and issues of blue screen of death and all this kind of thing that we used to see quite commonly on the earlier platforms. But the good thing is Microsoft have taken that forward. So with Server 2008 and more recently Server 2012, that robustness in the platform design has stayed there, and they've enhanced the product and the platform with things like Hyper-V for virtualization and added in new security features and better performance features as they've gone on. So what we're getting with the more modern technology platforms is faster servers that are more robust and more reliable, and certainly don't take a step backwards like we might have seen perhaps with something like a release on the PC side of Vista following a very successful product in XP. That's not the case with 2003. We've seen very, very stable platforms on the server side going forward. And of course it may be that the full cloud route is the right route, and therefore you don't need an on-premise server at all. So these are things that we can help you explore.
Thanks, Paul. That's great. I'm sure you'll agree that was a fantastic overview of the situation regarding Windows Server 2003, and a superb outline in terms of what the options are moving forward, especially around Office 365 and the tools that brings with it. For more information, we've obviously got a comprehensive section on Windows Server 2003 on the website, along with information on Office 365 and also the cloud readiness assessment that Paul mentioned. But better still, we'd really recommend that you engage and have a conversation and a discussion with one of our experts to identify exactly what it is that will work best for your business. And we look forward to helping you move on in the near future.